I thought I was ready to see anything. Except that. My sister's wedding is in 3 days. My boyfriend of 6 years came with me to stay with my family for the week. We're all under one roof. Last night at 11:30 p.m., I heard him get out of bed. Quietly. He didn't know I was awake. He didn't know I followed. And from the hallway, I watched my boyfriend and my sister walk into her bathroom. Together. No words, no explanations, just the click of the door, slowly closing. I didn't breathe. I didn't blink. I just stood there and wondered how a whole life can tilt in 1 second. We've done 6 years of ordinary love. Rent, laundry, grocery lists, shared calendars. Nothing glamorous. Everything steady. My sister and I are close in the way sisters are when they grow up on top of each other's secrets. Our fight language is short. Our love language is snacks and sarcasm. This week was supposed to be simple. I help the bride. He plays supportive partner. We all survive family togetherness. The first 2 days felt fine, until they didn't. Little things started sticking to me. He came back from an errand with my sister smelling like her perfume. Sharp, vanilla floral, a scent that doesn't whisper. He brushed it off. Long line, tiny store, everything rubs off. Then I woke up at 2 a.m. and he wasn't in bed. He said he took the trash out because it smelled. In the middle of the night. I watched him wash his hands and splash his face like he'd been scrubbing something invisible. The next morning, they avoided eye contact like they were acting in different plays on the same stage. None of it was proof. All of it was weight. By the 3rd night, I promised myself I wouldn't invent storms. We went to bed early. The house quieted into that old house hush, every pipe a whisper, every floorboard a memory. He shifted next to me. "You asleep?" he murmured. I kept still. The mattress eased as he got up. The door opened with that careful patience of someone convinced quiet can make them invisible. I followed, slow, the way you do when you're not sure whether you want the truth or want to keep the possibility that you're wrong. I sat at the top of the stairs on the little laundry couch we've used since we were kids. From there, I could see the strip of hallway under the nightlight's glow. My sister's door opened first. She padded to the bathroom, phone in hand. 2 minutes later, my boyfriend appeared from the opposite end, glanced once, like a thief checking for cameras, knocked twice, soft, secret. She opened. He slipped inside. The door closed. The lock turned. 10 minutes stretched like taffy. A hush of water. A shift of feet. The kind of muffled cough you make when you don't want to make any sound at all. My heart did that humiliating drum thing. My chest buzzed like a wire. I stood up, sat down, counted to 60, counted again. Every bad story I've ever heard braided itself into a single conclusion behind that door. You don't want to be the person who assumes the worst. You also don't want to be the person who lets the worst happen because you were polite. At minute 11, my hand found the bathroom knob. My parents never switched those old privacy locks, the kind you can open with a coin. The latch gave. The door eased inward. I stepped into bright light. They weren't entangled. No lipstick, no shirt half off, no skin-on-skin betrayal. My sister sat on the counter scrolling her phone. My boyfriend stood by the tiny window, head tipped toward the night air. In his hand, a small metal pipe. The sharp, sweet perfume I'd noticed all week hit me, riding a familiar, smoky undertone. They were not cheating. They were getting high. Together. In my parents' house, in the one room with a fan and a window. Relief reached me first and then tripped on fury. He started explaining fast, how he'd caught a whiff the first night, how he'd asked her how to vent it, how they'd decided to keep it away from my parents because it would explode the wedding week, how the perfume was a cover trick. He talked like a man who'd just been thrown a life raft and wanted me to see it still floats. My sister's apology was smaller but heavier. She didn't want me to judge her. She didn't want Mom to freak out. She didn't want to add to the week's dozen tiny fires. "I should have told you," she said, soft. "I know." I heard them. I believed the facts. But belief doesn't erase a picture once your brain has burned it in. I said we'd talk tomorrow, because nothing good happens with midnight adrenaline. We all went to bed, and I stared at the ceiling as the streetlight drew and redrew a white rectangle across the plaster. The story kept replaying with alternate endings. Me walking away and never knowing, me banging on the door and making a scene, me catching what wasn't actually happening but still felt wrong. Morning did what mornings do. It shoved everyone into motion. Florist calls, aunt arrivals, a zipper emergency, catering questions. I moved like a person in a routine, smiling, answering, carrying, folding. My mother asked if I slept, and I said yes, because detonating the day would have been the only thing worse than lying. My sister's eyes found mine across the kitchen and then tracked away. My boyfriend carried chairs like a man trying to lift his own guilt. At lunch, I pulled him behind the garage where the heat sat heavy and the grass smelled like summer. "You made me feel insane," I told him. "I stacked little weird things until they looked like a structure, and then you walked into a bathroom with my sister at midnight and locked the door." He didn't get defensive. He didn't minimize. "I'm sorry," he said. "I should have told you. I thought I was protecting her from judgment, and I forgot I was putting you in a horror movie." He promised no more secret midnight smoke sessions, no hiding, no bathroom conspiracies in a house that isn't ours. "I get it," he said. "You have to feel safe in your own family, even in their house." When I found my sister, she hugged me before I spoke, her chin pressing hard into my shoulder, like she was trying to push the apology through bone. "I was stupid," she said. "I didn't want to be the messy one on my own wedding week, so I made it messier. I wouldn't have forgiven you if the roles were reversed." We cried in the laundry room because there's something poetic about crying within arm's reach of a dryer sheet box. We laughed at that because tears need a joke to know when to stop. The next 2 days brightened without fully clearing. That's how these things go. You don't flip back to normal. You shift into a version where everyone is careful with the sharp edges. We made place cards. He triple-checked the seating chart. My sister practiced walking in her heels. I glued a jewel back onto her veil like a surgeon operating on fragile plastic. The image of the hallway faded from neon to charcoal. I was okay until I wasn't, then okay again. That counted as winning. On the morning of the wedding, the house smelled like hairspray and toast. My sister looked like a person about to make a promise in front of everyone. I zipped her dress slowly so she could feel the care travel up her spine. "Don't lock the bathroom on me," I joked, and she winced and then smiled because humor is how we pack forgiveness into small spaces. My boyfriend kissed me on the temple on the way to load the car and said, "Thank you for staying." He smelled like laundry and coffee and a little bit like nerves. The ceremony was beautiful in the way small weddings often are. Honest, slightly imperfect, held together by people passing things to each other. When the vows hit, my body did a tiny tremor. Promising truth is a big thing for a crowd to clap at when what almost broke me this week wasn't a kiss. It was the absence of truth in a narrow space. I squeezed his hand, and he squeezed back in that way we've developed over 6 years. 2 short squeezes means I'm here, I get it, I'm not letting your brain fall down a hole. After, my mother was high on sentiment and low on awareness. She kept saying everything turned out, like outcomes excuse processes. I smiled and poured coffee and thanked the caterers and let the day end on the good notes it deserved. The people we love get to be complicated, and we get to draw lines anyway. That's adulthood, I guess. Later that night, back in our room, with the sound of distant laughter and clinking glasses fading,
I told him the last part I hadn't said out loud yet. It wasn't the weed, I said. It wasn't even the secrecy by itself. It was the genre shift. 1 minute my life was a family comedy, and then your choices made it a thriller, and my nervous system doesn't switch channels that fast. He nodded and didn't try to fix the sentence. That helped more than a defense would have.
We're okay. Not polished, not cinematic, not collapsed. We left my parents' house with our suitcases, a pair of wilted flowers, and a private agreement. No more secrets that make someone else doubt their own eyes. If something needs hiding, maybe it doesn't belong in the house. Literal or metaphorical. I keep thinking about the relief I felt when I opened that door and found them doing the wrong thing for a different reason than I feared. That relief was real. So was the hurt. Both can exist. Not cheating isn't the same as not hurting. And I won't gaslight myself into pretending it didn't leave a mark just because the worst version didn't happen. So tell me, what would you have done in that hallway? Knock? Walk away? Open the door sooner? If your partner and your sister said it wasn't what you thought, would that be enough for you? Or does the choice to hide qualify as its own kind of betrayal? This is Drama Docket. Case closed. The verdict is yours.